Welcome. Thanks for joining me today. Use the hashtag Getting2Alpha to tweet comments and questions about this presentation. Today we'll start with a short introduction, then get right into the 7 habits that characterize breakthrough innovators, followed by 3 practical shortcuts you can use right away to turbocharge your early design process. If you're an entrepreneur, an innovator, or a maker, you already know that everything starts with a hunch, an exciting idea to pursue, a hot area to explore, a vision for some great product you're itching to build. But until you've developed and tested it, your idea is only a hypothesis. How do you know if today's idea is the right one to pursue? I'm Amy Jo Kim, game and product designer specializing in early stage innovation. At Shufflebrain, we've had the pleasure of working with many great companies and teams, all trying to build something innovative and new. Some were more successful than others. A handful of our early stage clients went on to become genre-defining hits. What set these breakthrough innovations apart? Can we identify habits, beliefs, and behaviors that reliably lead to better innovation? Can we learn to validate our product ideas better, smarter, and faster? I think we can. And today, I'm going to share with you 7 habits of teams who have actually produced breakthrough innovations. The first is foundational. Think like a scientist. Successful innovations start with small iterative experiments designed to answer the most important questions. This meshes well with the lean startup approach, where the path to success involves moving quickly through the build, measure, learn cycle. The most striking pattern shared by all these successful innovations is a willingness to ask the hard, important questions up front and then to seek the answers experimentally. The Sims spent years experimenting with different approaches to bringing a virtual dollhouse to life before they finally iterated their way to a design that became the highest grossing PC franchise of all time. The early team behind eBay experimented with a variety of social systems for building trust among online buyers and sellers at a time when online shopping was still a niche activity. The rock band team asked themselves, could non-musicians playing plastic instruments make music together and actually feel like a band? Answering that question was fundamental. Without a resounding yes, nothing else mattered. The Covet Fashion team had created some mobile fashion games and now wanted to reach a broader audience of fashion-loving women who weren't gamers. Using a disciplined experimental approach, that team iterated their way into CrowdStar's biggest success to date. The team behind Happify knew firsthand the power and efficacy of science-based happiness exercises. What they needed to know was whether people would pay for guided happiness exercises within a convenient game-like service. That's what they tested, and they didn't do anything else till they got a yes. The second habit characterizes how successful innovations actually get started in practice. It's by focusing on and delighting a small, passionate group of early adopters. They don't always look like Segway riding rock stars. Your job is to recognize the right early adopters for your project. To innovate successfully, you need to find and delight these early adopters, the people who will put up with cost, inconvenience, and ridicule to use your product or play your game because it really meets their need or solves their problem or addresses their pain point. Have you heard of Crossing the Chasm by Geoffrey Moore? This great, influential book talked about the difficulty of marketing innovative products to a mass market and opened people's eyes to the key differences between early adopters and early majority. Moore's book was based on work done 3 decades earlier, Everett Rogers' innovation diffusion theory, a data-driven model of how new products spread through existing communities. The punchline is that you cannot skip over your early adopters if you want to succeed. You have to delight them first and then move on to the larger and more mainstream majority. Now, your early adopters can add value in many, many ways. For instance, did you know that Piero Midger, the founder of eBay, was the original customer support rep for the service? And it was actually during a support interaction that an early user came up with the idea for eBay's reputation system. Will Wright, the game designer behind The Sims, cultivated relationships with an active and highly creative group of superfans who provided a rich source of user testing, new ideas, and content creation long before the game ever shipped to paying customers. The Rock Band team knew that social dynamics would make or break their ambitious music game. So together we focused on understanding the needs and habits of avid social gamers and non-musicians, which they needed to create a crossover hit. The third habit, learning early about customer needs and habits, can have a dramatic impact on your customer uptake and adoption. Too often we assume people will adopt new habits to use our product or play our amazing game. But it's much smarter and easier to embed your experience into a habit that already exists. If you have the time and opportunity, interviewing people in the field, meaning where they live, work, or play, is a great way to understand more about their habits and needs. Early in Rock Band, we interviewed casual gamers in arcades and in their homes, and we gained early insights about how they were playing games today that helped us shape the game of tomorrow. You can also use powerful techniques like speed interviews, which I'll cover in a moment, to surface habits and desires very early in your design process before you've built anything. For instance, the Happify team used this technique to learn about existing digital habits of their early customers, and they hooked into a Pinterest play pattern that helped them design a compelling and habit-building experience specifically for their early adopters. Habit 4 is about creating a culture of iteration and testing in your team and organization. If you embrace lean methods and you want to set your team up for success, make sure that everybody knows how to do quick, iterative, high-learning play testing. Successful innovators are tinkerers and experimenters. They test and refine many ideas, and they include their customers in an iterative feedback loop right from the start to make sure they're not designing something that people aren't going to be delighted by. In practice, what this usually means is setting up a regular weekly rhythm to start to collect feedback right from the start. For instance, on Covet Fashion, we set up weekly interviews with fashionable young women, gamers and non-gamers alike. And we use those sessions to test our early ideas, then to test mock-ups, and then later to actually test the working game. The Sims team similarly had an early Friday playtest, first for the team. Slowly it grew to include the rest of the studio, friends and family, and then the enthusiastic content-creating fan community that they'd been leveraging. The fifth habit builds on the previous. Once you're in touch with passionate early customers, giving them an easy way to stay connected to you and to each other is a high-leverage move. A well-run customer feedback community delivers ongoing value by keeping you engaged with passionate customers, and even more so, giving you a way to listen in as they talk to each other about your product. Every breakthrough innovation I've ever been part of figured out some way to put together this early adopter feedback community and listen in. With eBay, it was an email list. Happify many years later used Facebook private groups to invite select early customers to give them feedback, and then kept things alive with posts, polls, tidbits from the development pipeline that kept everybody engaged and talking to each other. Don't make the rookie mistake of lumping all your customers together into one big undifferentiated community. Set up channels with tools such as Slack here to gather feedback from verticals from later customers without wrecking that special relationship you're building with those early adopters. This brings us to one of the most critical habits, learning and tuning the most important part of the customer experience first. A core loop is a gaming concept that describes the interlocking activities, progress markers, and rewards that a customer experiences during a session. As game designer Dan Cook says, skill building and learning are an essential part of what makes games compelling and fun. When you're validating your product ideas, be careful not to fall into the trap of testing your marketing message and thinking you've validated your core loop. A fake landing page is great. That can help you shape your marketing message. But it's not going to have anything to do with helping you either shape or test your product experience. An operant conditioning loop, such as the habit loop from the Power of Habit book or the hooked model, get you closer to a core loop because it's got feedback and rewards and a loop structure. What's missing, though, is any notion of personal empowerment or skill building or turning your customers into better versions of themselves. Skinner boxes and operant conditioning can absolutely shape behavior, especially short term. but they won't lead to player delight, and they will never drive long-term engagement. For that, you need skill building. People enjoy getting better at something they care about. The process of learning and mastery is the thing that's deeply and intrinsically motivating. To create a robust core loop, you want to combine compelling feedback with the skill-building power of games. Start with repeatable, engaging activities that are triggered by an existing urge or need. That fuels your core loop. Build a feedback loop that promotes learning and skill building. And then close that loop by giving people compelling and meaningful reasons to come back and cues to remind them. Breakthrough innovations spend a lot of time up front getting this core loop right. For instance, on Rock Band, we spent months prototyping and testing the very early versions of the game. We didn't add features or polish or progression systems until the feel of that early play session core loop truly rocked. Although it's very simple, Twitter's core loop has the same basic dynamics. Short, engaging activities like reading and responding to updates and checking trends fuel the loop and deliver that brief, satisfying hit of satisfaction. Along with other stats, notifications deliver feedback on how other people are reacting to your posts, and by doing so, they help you write more compelling posts. After all, if you tweet in the forest and nobody gives you a notification, did it really happen? Now, as we know, humans love watching numbers go up. Building a following, engaging with others, and developing relationships all pull you back and make it harder to leave. The seventh habit, creating a path to mastery, is your golden key to building long-term engagement with your best customers. Teams who produce breakthrough innovations recognize the importance of early adopters and go beyond that to find ways to co-create with them, empower them, learn from them, leverage their skills, knowledge, and passions as they bring the product to life. You can engage all of your customers with progressive skill building using the Player's Journey framework. But you'll only engage your very best customers, the early adopters, enthusiasts, passionate advocates, by giving them the tools, powers, and rewards of mastery. More than anything, people want to matter. They want to have an impact. They want to know that what they've built up gets them something that's different. A very simple way to enable this is test early mockups and ideas with your early customer community, as Happify did regularly. You'll get valuable feedback, and your early customers will feel special and important. For Rock Band, the mastery systems were built around the rock and roll fantasies of social gamers and non-musicians, aspirational progression systems, something the team absorbed through the interviews and early testing. And Covet Fashion was created from the ground up around rating systems that would naturally bubble up true fashion expertise among the players, something we also learned from our very earliest speed interviews and testing sessions. Ultima Online, an early precursor to World of Warcraft, offered many different earned roles to loyal players to help police and manage the game world, something that drove deep engagement long term. And there you have it. 7 habits that can set the stage for breakthrough innovation. Now, they won't guarantee success, of course. That takes hard work, persistence, great team dynamics, luck, and market timing. But what these habits will do is increase your chances of building something innovative that people want and need. Now let's switch gears and take a quick look at 3 smart shortcuts you can start using today to turbocharge your customer discovery and early design process. First is the MVP Canvas, a one-page document similar to the business model canvas, but laser-focused on the needs of early-stage product design and development. First, you clarify your product strategy by forming hypotheses, writing down what you think now about who your early adopter customers are, what unmet need you're targeting, how your solution actually meets that need, and the value prop that ties it all together. You also identify your team's unfair advantage, your strengths, your values, your passions, what you are world-class at, and the early metrics you'll use to measure success. That will be your North Star as you navigate your way through lots of customer feedback. You'll then list and prioritize your most important high-risk assumptions, and you'll use that list to focus your early prototyping and testing efforts. The second shortcut is the speed interview, part of our early adopter funnel shown here. This is a powerful technique for generating early product insights and excellent testing subjects. You conduct 10 to 15 quick 5-minute interviews with potential early adopters who you've found and filtered through an earlier screener. You ask just a few revealing questions, carefully chosen to surface the needs, habits, desires, and ideas of true early adopters. Once the interviews are complete, you identify a handful of enthusiastic early adopters who would make great testing subjects. And you also distill actionable customer insights that you can feed into and use right away in your product design process. The third checkcode is habit stories, a variation on job stories or jobs to be done. Habit stories help you harvest the most actionable product insights from your customer interviews and testing sessions if what you're after is re-engagement. A habit story is a special type of job story. It's built around your customer's existing habits and unmet needs. If you're looking for shortcuts to engagement, try piggybacking your product experience on an existing habit and solve a problem, reduce a pain, address some unmet need that goes along with that habit. To bring this right down to earth, let's look how Covet Fashion used these specific techniques to supercharge their early product development. They came into this because CrowdStar saw an opportunity to expand the fashion gaming market and innovate by integrating with real-world fashion brand and rhythms. Our initial product vision was a free-to-play co-op mobile game tied to fashion trends and real-world events. We wanted to offer people a replacement for Vogue, something beautiful to flip through that would also keep you up to date on fashion trends. Our unfair advantage was one, extensive free-to-play experience in the studio and an addressable audience for being able to test and market the game early on. The early metrics were subjective responses and NPS score drawn from our regular weekly interviews. Our key assumption was the basic premise of blending real-world fashion cycles with a free-to-play mobile game. We wanted to know, would people light up? Would they be excited about it? Would they lean in? We also wanted to understand the value add or not of engaging with a celebrity stylist. For the speed interviews, we spoke with young fashion-loving young women, both gamers and non-gamers. We did interviews over the phone with paid testing as a follow-up for the best. We completed the first round in 2 weeks, which gave us useful directional customer insights and a handful of testing subjects to work with. From these early sessions, 3 patterns emerged that corresponded to different ways to play. The first we called the fashion browser. That's a person who loves staying up to date on fashion trends and consuming beautiful visuals and immersing herself in the beautiful aspirational world of Vogue. We translated this research insight into design decisions by creating a habit story around this, focused around existing habits and unmet needs that this person has. The second pattern we identified is the co-creator, someone who likes to dress, shop, and primp in co-op mode with a buddy, friend, relative, BFF, sister, mother. Writing her habit story, after learning about this through the speed interviews, helped us see the need for a shared closet, a simple feature that would enable just the kind of co-op play people were discussing. This became one of the most loved features of this breakthrough game. The third pattern we identified early was the armchair stylist. This person is very opinionated about fashion, and she loves to tell other people how to dress. The habit story that we wrote for her, based on what we learned during research, helped us get inside the mindset of this wannabe stylist and create the in-game rating system that would empower and highlight and leverage for us these kind of people who were some of our most engaged players. Once we had done the research and identified these patterns, we updated our MVP canvas to reflect what we'd learned. Our hypotheses were largely confirmed, and our age targets were tweaked because we learned that women in their 30s and 40s were very enthusiastic about the value prop and had a lot more disposable income. The free-to-play game we'd envisioned was definitely validated, looked like it could be a hit, specifically on women who played smartphones and tablets, which is who we reached out to. We validated our initial assumptions, tweaked it, and generated new assumptions around whether people would actually spend money that would guide our initial round of testing. And that's how a solid start in low fidelity, high learning, playtesting helped Crowdstar create their biggest hit to date. Now that you've seen how these ideas and templates work together, I welcome you to try out these shortcuts for yourself. You can go to getting2alpha.com/shortcuts to see short explanatory videos and download templates to try these out. If you want more, you can check out the Getting to Alpha program, an online team project-based coaching program to turbocharge your path to product market fit. Thank you for your time. I really hope you enjoyed this and learned something, and I'd love to hear from you as follow-up.